Are there moments now that you're having these bigger moments where you're like, I was right. Like I made the choice. I made the switch when most people wouldn't make that jump. And wow, it's really working out.
Yeah. I mean, we have those. I have those moments. July 31st of 2019, I got to audition for Chuck Lorre, and I'd wanted, that was another dream of mine. I'd just seen all those wonderful sitcoms that he's done. And, they had the director session, the producer session callbacks for a new show that he was doing called Bob Hearts Abishola. And there was a few of us that got called in there was kind of a doctor role who played the main character's boss at work or surgeon at work, who gave her unsolicited relationship advice while they're doing surgery. So that's the bit. That's the bit. And I got to audition for Chuck and some of the other creators. And I remember on the first few auditions, we had done this doctor who was written as an Indian American, as an Indian doctor set in America, set in Detroit. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Detroit Memorial is the hospital in that sitcom. And so we had done the first few rounds without an accent. And then Chuck was like, oh, what would it be like if this guy grew up in India, And I just remember thinking, man, I've been doing this accent at bars and parties and weddings and making people laugh for 20 years. And now's my chance to do it for Chuck Lorre, And I was like, game on, baby. And I walked out of Warner Brothers, I think at 12:30, and I was booked at 2:00 and ended up recurring in several seasons of that show. And that was a moment. Wow. That was a moment for sure. Yeah, today's a remarkable day because today, May 2nd, 2023, is the first day of the writer's strike, the first one in 16 years. So I was thinking it's kind of a point of reflection for me because I was thinking of days in my life and along my journey that they're noisy days and they're quiet days. So today you would have thought maybe today would be a noisy day, but today's really quiet.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody knew this was coming. And so I'm gonna drive by the picket lines and stand in solidarity after this. We're not far from Paramount here. Yeah. But we were all expecting it, and my mind is really quiet, And I think back, so another really remarkable day for me was September 15th, 2008. So I was working on Wall Street at the time, and I was, in my office in a tower up there in Midtown, which overlooked Lehman Brothers, and that was the day that Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy, and from that would ensue the biggest recession, crisis, depression, whatever you want to call it, of our generation.
Yeah. And
that was the day. That was the day the shit hit the fan. And I was there. I remember looking out the window and seeing these people with their boxes, cleaning out their desks and walking out, and they had no jobs. Some of them got, lost their visa status and got sent back to Asia, whatever, like they had come here with the dream of working at one of those investment banks, and it was gone.
Wow.
It was gone. And I remember that day, and everything kind of changed.
What did that mean for you at that point?
Well, over the next few months and years, there were layoffs and the business changed. There was a lot of regulation. And I'm not saying that some of that stuff, obviously a lot of that stuff was necessary. But for us, we were young junior associates and VPs at an investment bank. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I just came here to work on exciting deals, and I love this. I'm good at it. And all of a sudden, punishment was coming. The wrath of the United States, the wrath of the world was coming onto our profession. That was one of those loud days. Yeah. And so there's a few of those. I mentioned the audition with Chuck and the day with Adam McKay. And there's a few of those days that you remember. And then there's those special days where you have those quiet conversations, or quiet days.
Yeah.
And I think back to that conversation we had at Verve a few years ago.
Yeah.
And, you told me about a lot of the challenges you were going through. And I think you had just done Theater Company.
Yep.
And maybe had the idea of Rudolph rolling around in your mind at the time. And we had a great conversation, and you talked to me about your pivot.
Yep.
And the changes that you had to make, and how going home kind of had solidified some of that. And then, and that was, those are the special days.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we talk about those loud days because I remember the date and I remember the images and what happened, but just the gift of having friends and having those quiet conversations and sharing this creative journey, those days are also important too.
Oh,